Number 9. Why Rey isn't likable. Hey, you want to know an easy way to make a character instantly likable? You make them good at what they do, because nobody likes an idiot.
I speak.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Make them funny, because funny people are fun and entertaining.
I can roll.
Make him the recipient of an undeserved misfortune, which helps an audience empathize with the character, and give him a strong moral code, because knowing what a character values helps us understand how they think. One or any combination of these is a quick and dirty way to endear a character to an audience. Not saying it's a rule, just a method. Does Rey have these elements? Strictly speaking, yes. And I think it worked for first-time viewers, but it's a cheap trick. And upon closer examination, I think we'll find the reason why your brain didn't like Rey. While she is good at what she does, she's too good. And good at everything. Nobody likes a know-it-all. They're annoying.
No.
Is she funny?
Ow!
Yeah, kinda. Maybe. She doesn't make light of tense situations. She isn't eccentric. She's just dumb. Is she the recipient of an undeserved misfortune? Sure, but that's kind of boring, because she's pretty much overcome that by the time we meet her. Oh, you were abandoned as a child? Looks like you're doing pretty good there, honey, considering. You don't get harassed by gangs. You never have to watch your father die, or even have your kids stolen from you. You just got this tidy little home in an AT-AT. Yeah, you gotta work for your daily bread, but you're getting by. How exciting. And does she have a moral code? Well, she's nice to BB-8, even though it's not consistent with how people generally treat droids.
How rude.
He's no respect for anyone.
Thank you. You said someone, not something.
So it's kind of weird how this is supposed to be her moral code moment, because she's choosing not to betray BB-8, because all she seems to want to do is help everybody, even droids. Aw, she's nice to the droid, how cute, I guess. Droids' lives matter? So while it checks all the boxes, it's pretty thin. Which is why I kinda liked her in The Force Awakens the first time I saw the movie, but on repeated viewings, I realized how little substance there was in any of her character, and how I really disliked her, because she's bland, overpowered, and a front for something far more sinister than the dark side.
I don't think they like me.
Can't imagine why.
Number 10. Captain Phasma and Finn are underutilized. Again. Captain Phasma is not the Boba Fett of these movies. Fett was part of a larger story. His character was clear and his motivation was clear. Cold, calculating killer with a desire for money. Phasma has no character that we can discern other than a stern, brainwashed commander? Fett had mystique because he was mysterious and didn't talk much. He was strictly business, but he got shit done, and he grovels to no man.
No disintegrations.
As you wish.
Captain Phasma is just kind of a representation of authority for Finn. Nothing about her is all that threatening or interesting, which means her final showdown with Finn doesn't mean a whole lot since we have no understanding of her character and only minimal interaction with Finn.
Yes, Captain.
Plus, Finn's story is so thin and his change of heart is barely there, so their conflict is not all that exciting. There's this deleted scene where Finn is undermining Phasma's authority by revealing the shocking truth that
when I put a gun to your head, you shut down Starkiller shields.
while this is more dramatic than what's in the final movie, is pretty much pointless anyway, because no one really cares. Which I think is the reason why they deleted it. We don't care about either of these characters, and we have no investment in what little conflict there is between them. So what's left is cheesy one-liners.
Let's go, Chrome Dome.
And overly flashy and drawn-out fighting with no suspense and no soul. I know they're trying to continue the arc Finn was supposed to have in The Force Awakens, but he didn't really have one. We still don't know why he's defecting.
Why are you helping me?
Because it's the right thing to do.
We have no context for why he does anything. And pretty much the rest of the movie, he was just obsessed with getting away from the First Order and protecting Rey. probably because he wants her to be his waifu. He didn't care about the rebels, which is why when he woke up, his first question is,
Where's Ray?
So then following his motivation, he tried to ditch, but then gets drafted for a mission. Yes, this gives him some kind of change to go through, not caring about the rebels to caring about the cause enough to join them. Here's the thing though, once he accepts this mission, his arc of going from not wanting to be a rebel to having something to fight for? Wait a minute, why does that sound familiar?
I was raised to do one thing. But I've got nothing to fight for.
Hey, why wasn't that in the movie? Anyway, once he accepts the mission, he is now technically a rebel. He's not being forced into it, guilted into it, or doing it for the money. He's just doing it because...
It'll save the fleet and it'll save Ray.
But why should he care? It's not like Ray or Poe had a talk with him to try to change his mind or anything.
I believe in what you guys are doing here, but I didn't join this army. I don't want you to think I'm something I'm not.
Hey, it's fine. You're all right. You're here with us, where you belong.
Oh, that got deleted too. That had some potential. Oh well. So all Finn wants to do is be with Ray. How exciting. But Finn can't get a goddamn break. Everyone's calling him a traitor.
Traitor! Traitor!
You're a selfish traitor.
Give the guy some slack. He probably just wants to sit on a beach somewhere with Ray and sip blue milk. Oh wait. So just like The Force Awakens, Finn is doing the same thing from the last movie. Chasing tail, and getting a dumb showdown with his boring nemesis, which ends with her ambiguously being tossed down a pit. Again. Is she dead? Who knows? Who cares? I mean, really, they should have just cut from after the other huge f*** up by Rian Johnson, where Rose is dragging Finn and she yells, "There's a shuttle over there," and they get up and they start running. Cut to the shuttle they just talked about leaving the hangar. It's bad enough that every stormtrooper in the hangar is dead, yet Rose and Finn are unharmed for some reason. But being subjected to the rest of this shit? Like how somehow Phasma teleported from right in front of them to half a mile away? And for some reason, everyone left alive isn't panicking and trying to get off this sinking ship before it blows up? And to top it all off, we're subjected to BB-8 controlling a chicken walker. It's just too much for me. All of this. The awful BB-8 on a chicken walker gag, the stupid showdown with Phasma, the terrible one-liners. Just cut it all out. Throw it away. In the trash. Nobody wants to see this shit. Speaking of things no one wants to see, number 11. Holdo is the second worst character in the film. Also, her plan is super dumb, and we should talk about that. Calling her a terrible character is an understatement. The only good thing about her was she died. Let's talk about her costume, because I judge women on their appearances. Send your complaints to P.O. Box 085 Los Angeles. Why the hell is she wearing this stupid dress when everyone else is wearing something military or Star Warsy? Is this supposed to evoke Leia's dress? Mon Mothma's dress? She wasn't an officer, just some kind of official. Oh look, she's got halos. Does that mean she's good? And what the f was with her purple hair? She looks like she just came out of an LGBT meeting. Anybody else have weird colored hair? All I see are people going all natural. What, you gotta be different? F you, Ryan. So I already mentioned how Vice Admiral Gender Studies is a terrible leader. Just tell him the plan. Keep your people informed, you terrible military leader. Not only did she do a terrible job of keeping her subordinates informed, but her plan stinks. But the movie does this whole bait and switch thing where it builds you up to really hate this character. Like you start to think, wow, she's a real bitch. I bet she's a traitor. I hope she f***ing gets it in the end. But then the movie pulls the reveal that nope, she was good all along and the stupid terrible things she's doing are good. Even though in the back of your mind you're thinking, no, these things are still bad. Why does the movie keep telling me that it's good? I'm so confused. So anyway, her plan is to fly in a straight line for 18 hours, which is the only thing she ever does that's straight. And and then fuel up all these transports that A, have no shields, B, have no hyperdrives, C, are large and completely visible to the naked eye and presumably sensors as well, and leave the ship going in one direction, while they head to the only other place nearby that isn't totally obvious. Great plan, stupid. Poe's plan, as crazy as it sounds, is not too bad, just really, really hard to pull off. There are so many things that could go wrong, not to mention some practically impossible things. And they almost do it too, with the help of a little hand waving. But despite everything going ridiculously well for them, they got caught by a fucking droid?
Suckers.
Maybe if you didn't send a janitor and a mechanic to do a Jedi's job, they could have pulled it off. Whoops! Oopsie! So how did Holdo's plan fail? Not because it was a stupid plan, according to the movie, but because this asshole told them to scan something. Well, it's actually pretty complicated. Let me back up. Part of Miss Purple Hair's plan was to use these transports that magically have cloaking devices. And how do I know that? Because of one throwaway line that's super hard to miss.
Cloaking device activated. We should be off their scopes.
Did you catch that? Here, let me play it again.
Cloaking device activated. We should be off their scopes.
Did you catch it this time? One more time.
Oh, Sam,
So it's not like this kind of cloaking, but somehow just makes them invisible to scanners. You'd think something so useful would be installed on every ship.
Captain Nita, the ship no longer appears on our scopes.
No ship that small has a cloaking device.
Oh.
Cloaking device activated.
No ship that small has a cloaking device.
Huh. Anyway, so that's their plan, to sneak down to the planet with these special non-detectable transports. And hope no one looks out a fucking window.
Let's hope this works.
But they get blown up. And why is that?
So we checked on the information from the thief. We ran a decloaking scan, and sure enough, 30 resistance transports have just launched from the cruiser.
Excuse me, how does Mr. Don't Join know that the transports are cloaked? He overheard something about evacuating the cruiser.
Holdo's loading the crew into shuttle. She's going to abandon ship.
But he didn't know anything else. He didn't know when, or even if they'd be cloaked. In fact, Poe didn't find out until after he woke up on the transport. So how would this dude know if he was supposed to overhear it from Poe if Poe didn't even know it at the time? Also, if you could have run a decloaking scan before, why are you guys not running one all the fucking time? I mean, doesn't the existence of a decloaking scanner device sort of negate the usefulness of a cloaking device? What am I watching? Spaceballs?
The minute we move in there, they're gonna spot us on their radar.
Not if we jam it.
So basically, this guy did nothing except remind them to do a decloaking scan. Big deal. But the First Order still pays him for the reminder.
Your ship and payment, as we agreed.
As you agreed? I'm confused. Did he lure Finn and Rose here? Was he in on this all along? Did he somehow contact Phasma ahead of time and tell her the whole plan for an agreed price? Or did he just say, hey, I got some information to sell? And then they haggled out a price and then he told them? Well, at least he got paid. And they let him go, too. The First Order kept their word? Wow.
Will wonders never cease?
The bad guys have more integrity than the good guys. Wow. Just wow.
Your ship and payment, as we agreed.
Thank you very much. Nice doing business with you. So in the logic of Rian Johnson, the stupid plan that Holdo made up would have worked, because if Poe hadn't sent Rose and Finn on that mission, the First Order wouldn't have remembered to turn on the cloaking scanners or look out a f***ing window. Even though if she had just told Poe the plan in the first place, none of this would have happened, because when he finds out the whole plan...
Hide till the First Order passes. That could work.
He thinks it's a good plan, even though it really is a stupid plan.
She was more interested in protecting the light than she was seeming like a hero.
Bitch, did you just call him a pretentious asshole? Poe was never trying to seem like a hero. He was just taking charge like a true leader would, attempting to deal with the situation. Oh, like a hero would. Remember the steps he took. He appealed to Holdo. He got shut down. So he tried taking matters into his own hands. Then 2 more times he pleaded with Holdo to get some kind of leadership out of her.
Tell us that we have a plan!
They are trying to save us. This is our best chance for escape. You have to give Finn and Rose all the time that you can.
Before he finally gives up, and in a last desperate attempt to save everyone's hide, takes command. Doesn't look pretentious to me. Looks like he's just trying to save everyone's bacon. Like a hero. Or Kevin Bacon. But it is very much implied by the movie that Poe was entirely in the wrong here, even though he did pretty much everything right.
You have bet the survival of the Resistance on bad odds and put us all at risk?
Yeah, you talk, lady. Put that man in his place, bitch. I'm sorry, Leia, but every word of what you just said was wrong.
It was at this moment that she knew. She fucked up.
Bet you wish you'd listened to Poe now, don't you, bitch? Bet you wish you told everyone the plan in the beginning. But no, it's Poe's fault. Now she has to go and do the noble sacrifice.
She's too good for this sinful earth, and will perform a heroic sacrifice to prove it. The story will often go out of its way to ensure that she doesn't leave an ugly corpse, either by a method involving no external physical damage or just not leaving a body to be recovered.
No. No more Mary Sue shit. Case closed. So Princess Periwinkle rips the ship at light speed right through the First Order. And the rest of the Star Wars franchise. If this is a thing, using hyperspace as a weapon, why has this never been done before? Hell, why didn't you just do this earlier in the movie? Load everyone on the other transports and then boom! And when the First Order is all out of order, hyperspace away to anywhere. You know, from the reaction of the officers, they're all like, oh shit, she's gonna do it. So they already know this is a thing, which means pretty much everyone else should already know this can be done. So why has this never been done in any other situation in any of the other movies? You know why? Because it's stupid. It breaks the universe, that's why. If you can kamikaze a ship into a large ship with a hyperdrive, this seems ridiculously effective. Hell, you don't even need a ship. Just strap a hyperdrive to an asteroid or a small moon, and have a droid drive it, and whoosh, no more Death Star. You see, I always assumed you couldn't do this because when you enter hyperspace, you actually go into this alternate dimension. But there's an element of risk to the ship for mucking about in hyperspace.
This hyperdrive blows are gonna be pieces of us in 3 different systems.
You can't just go through hyperspace willy-nilly. There's some work that needs doing to avoid danger to the ship. But it's never implied that jumping into hyperspace would ever harm anything else. There's all kinds of space junk out there, not to mention traffic. It just made sense that once you were in the whooshy-whooshy light tunnel, everything else was safe, but you weren't. If you ran through something too big or too solid, I always imagined the ship would get atomized before leaving hyperspace, and what's left of you would enter normal space and just harmlessly disperse. Which is why there was a need for calculations and shit, because that whole process was far too complicated and dangerous to do manually. Besides, it's just a mode of transportation. Doing this completely changes the rules of the game, both forward and backward. It's just logic.
Oh, logic. Why don't they teach logic at these schools?
Well done, Ryan. In one maneuver, you have obliterated the entire franchise. I am speechless. But hey, it's pretty. Number 12. Rose is the worst new character. Yes, my friends, the award for absolute worst character in the entire movie goes to none other than a potato in a wig. How is that, you might ask? Oh, you'll see. But let's start at the beginning. How is she introduced? She's off in a corner, blubbering her heart out over some kind of mystical-looking amulet. In my first time viewing, I was completely confused. You see, we're meant to connect this with the same one that the girl in the bomber who died had. But by this time in the movie, we'd already forgotten about this, so we don't make that connection. We don't know what she's crying about, so we can't empathize with her. We do, however, feel incredibly awkward and uncomfortable especially when she gets out her cattle prod. I wonder if Finn's into that kind of thing.
Ow! Hey, what?
Ow, I got a shock to my cock.
So she's emotional and crazy? That's a great combination for an appealing character.
You're a selfish traitor.
Bitch, please. He's doing this to save someone else's skin, not just his own. Plus, he never really signed on for this anyway. He really only cares about Rey. Besides, shouldn't there be a difference between the the First Order and the Rebellion? The Resistance? He leads the bad guys and they're mad at him for obvious reasons.
Raider!
But you're gonna make the good guys exactly the same?
You're a selfish traitor.
Like the whole point about the rebellion in the first place was freedom from tyrannical oppression, right?
They could use a good pilot like you. You're turning your back on them.
You're a good fighter, Solo. I hate to lose you.
Thank you, General.
You're a selfish traitor.
You bitch. Anyway, Rose is the personification of the most bloated add-on to this movie that shouldn't exist. The Casino Planet. This thing runs on for way too long.
It's a terrible place filled with the worst people in the galaxy.
Literal mustache twirling, space monocle wearing, champagne guzzling, evil rich people in a goddamn space yacht on a Las Vegas planet where they're cruel to animals and have child slaves. Why would you need child slave labor if you're rich enough to buy droids who don't eat, don't sleep, don't use the toilet, don't get sick, don't need breaks, don't complain, don't slack off, and they don't organize rebellions? Slave labor makes sense on a poor planet where a droid is a luxury. But this is a f***ing resort. I think they can afford it. But the real problem with this place is that it exists. It's a casino.
A casino in Star Wars, you know, with fancy dressed people. It just seemed, and I expressed my fears to Ryan.
Ryan, you really think Star Wars should have slot machines? What the hell is this? What the hell am I watching? And what makes these rich people so evil?
There's only one business in the galaxy that'll get you this rich.
War.
Oh, really? You don't think there are dozens, if not hundreds, of other ways of making that sweet cash in this galaxy? You sure about that, Rose? Let's do a little research, since Ryan can't be bothered to do it. Let's see here. Who are the richest men in the world? Because we all know the richest people in the world would be the same list. Okay, which industries do these guys make their money? Let's see here. Online retail, software, investing, clothing, social media, clothing, banking, retail, communications. You know, I'm not seeing weapons in any of this top 10 here. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe I should look where Ryan took inspiration from. World War II. Right before World War II, the richest man in the world was J.D. Rockefeller. His industry? Oil. Not weapons. Rose, baby. It's time to put aside those prejudices of rich people who sell weapons. I mean, hell, where do you think you got your weapons from? Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. So what was the point of all that then, Ryan? Am I supposed to feel bad about war?
Stop wasting my time. Stop it.
After Rose and Finn have that lovely discussion about politics, their stupidity catches up with them.
You're under arrest for illegal parking.
So they get out of jail because of an incredibly conveniently placed character, Mr. Ex Machina, and they escape through the sewers to meet up with the horse dog things. Why are these in the movie? Because girls like horses, but they also like dogs. So why not put them together? Give them big floppy rabbit ears and puppy dog eyes. The Whammons will love it. Ain't they cute? Oh look, they've been abused. Hey idiot, you know how rich f***s treat their horses? Better than poor people in Uganda.
You don't know the way.
Racehorses are pampered like crazy because the rich f***s want their horse to win. And they've got the money for it. Sure, they push their horses hard, sometimes too far. but they don't whip them to death because they're evil rich snobs who want to cause pain to poor animals. This is fucking retarded. And they're off. It's Oh My God, followed by What Am I Watching, and Big Floppy Dicks, and One Massive Black, and Giant Thick Rooster. F me, I don't care anymore. What the fuck is this shit?
Holy Jesus. What is that? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, you trashed that place. Stick it to those evil rich people. But even though you failed your mission, it was still worth it.
It was worth it, though. To tear up that town, make them hurt.
Dude, you didn't make them hurt. You probably just frightened a few of them. Any damage you did probably will get cleaned up by those poor slave children you just met 10 minutes ago. Also remember, these people are rich. A few broken items is probably a drop in the bucket. Not to mention they probably have insurance. Also, those dog horses will probably be rounded up in a few hours. At best, you inconvenienced some people. Congratulations, you did fucking nothing.
It was worth it, though. To tear up that town, make them hurt.
Well done. You basically used the exact same logic as those retards in Occupy Wall Street. Smash those windows. That'll show those rich people.
Morons. It was worth it, though.
Now it's worth it.
I hate you. I hate you so much. But this isn't the worst thing that Rose does. What I've talked about so far is just stupid and annoying. The absolute worst thing is during this scene. Everyone is retreating, except for Finn. Wait a minute. How is Finn piloting this thing if he's not a pilot?
You need a pilot.
I need a pilot.
Huh. Anyway, Finn is having a moment where he's about to sacrifice himself for the cause. He's done running. He's ready to die for everyone. And even though he had this character change earlier in the movie for no real reason at all, I at least felt a little something. Until Rose comes out of fucking nowhere and cock blocks him. How the hell did she get up that far ahead of Finn to sideswipe him like that? I already flunked you at physics, Ryan. Don't make me do it again. Rose could have killed them both in that stunt. And now she has doomed everyone in the base. Who's the traitor now, bitch? And why did she do this asinine act of stupidity?
Why would you stop me?
I saved you. Tell me.
What?
Didn't save my life, you ruined my dead.
Then she says the worst line in the movie.
That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
I have no words for how stupid this is. I think Mahler said it best.
This couldn't be any more poetically fucking retarded.
She didn't save him. She almost killed him needlessly. Not to mention she prevented Finn from saving everyone else. The very thing that Holo did earlier, not to mention her sister at the beginning of this fucking god-awful movie. And as the giant laser blows a hole in the door, this happens.
And then he kissed me.
Finn is in shock. We are in shock. This is what Star Wars has become. We can't believe how bad this is. This, ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment I contemplated walking out of the theater and demanding my money back. This is the moment I was convinced Ryan was trolling us all.
Suckers.
This can't be happening. Please be dead, please be dead, please be dead, please be dead. Damn it! Ryan, why did you make this character? She's the kind of character that doesn't belong in a Star Wars movie.
When I wrote that character of Rose, she felt like a character who didn't belong in a Star Wars movie, and it appealed to me.
Wait, you knew? Hey Ryan, you know that little voice in your head that says when you shouldn't do something? You should listen to that voice. Not the one that says kill yourself, but the one that says you're making a terrible mistake with the movie. Yeah, that one. But this was only the beginning for Ryan. The worst is yet to come. Number 13. The assassination of Luke Skywalker's character. Man, Luke Skywalker is so awesome. He's a beloved character. So many people, young and old, identified with Luke as that optimistic, dorky kid who was always looking to the horizon for a little adventure, eager to get out of the house, leave the farm, and make a mark on the world, to fight for something bigger than yourself, to discover your roots, understand your identity of where you came from and where you're going, and to be your best self. And when we see Luke again after 30-something years, he's a full-fledged Jedi Master, robes and everything. But in the hands of Rian Johnson, Luke immediately throws away his father's lightsaber and goes and changes into a hobo costume, because we can't have him look like a Jedi. No, Rian wants him to look like a hobo. And with that jarring and pointless costume change, Rian has transformed Luke into an unrecognizable version of the character we know. He's a grumpy recluse.
Go away!
A depressed, disillusioned coward.
I came to this island to die.
And an attempted murderer to his own kin. It's how we all imagined our heroes to be. Washed up losers.
Suckers.
Now he spends his days living off the land. Yeah, we had to have this scene, because that's important. Not only are we infantilizing Luke by making him drink milk from the tits of a sea monster, but you have him drink some right in front of Rey with it dribbling down his beard in a really disgusting way. And this expression like he's trying to gross out Rey intentionally. And to top it all off, the sea cow is making an orgasmic noise when he milks it. That doesn't make the audience feel uncomfortable at all, does it, Rian? Oh my god, it's blue milk! Wait, that's not blue milk. That's green milk.
It broke
This is no longer Luke Skywalker.
I almost had to think of Luke as another character. Maybe he's Jake Skywalker. He's not my Luke Skywalker.
When confronted with such a radically changed character, your mind starts grasping for something to explain why. Did he have something incredibly tragic happen to him? Did he discover something on this island that shattered his hope and optimism? Has he gone senile? Did he do too much Disney cocaine? Well, Rian has a reason, and it makes no goddamn sense, because he doesn't understand the original characters in the story.
She's the one in the message. We gotta help her. I can't keep the vision out of my head. They're my friends. I gotta help them. I can save him. I can turn him back. I have to try.
He's unsavable! Kill him!
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong.
See, Ryan's story goes something like this. After almost killing his own nephew, which by the way Luke would never do,
I feel the good in you.
And after waking up to the massacre and carnage, it broke his spirit. Luke then goes on some kind of holy grail quest for the original Jedi Temple because it's the best place to hide.
You think that I came to the most unfindable place in the galaxy for no reason at all?
At some point along the way, he learns that the Jedi are no good for the galaxy because somehow they're responsible for the Sith's actions.
From my point of view, the Jedi are evil!
Then Luke concludes that the best thing for the galaxy is to not have him in it. Basically, all this started because Rian needed some kind of reason for Luke to be on that island, because no one told him why Luke was there in the first place. Apparently there was no plan for the sequel trilogy, or maybe there was a vague plan, but Rian threw it out. It's not really clear. But what is clear is that they were literally making this shit up as they went along.
I needed to find a way into why he's on that island that wasn't just him hiding and being a coward.
Except that's totally what you made him into, right, Rian?
So the thing that would make sense to me is if he's actually come to realize that the galaxy thinks it wants the Jedi back, but the Jedi have done nothing but add to the problems of the universe. And the most selfless act he can do is to do what he couldn't do in The Empire Strikes Back and ignore the calls of help from his friends and lock himself off. And suddenly it turns to this kind of burden that he has to hold.
Do you know what a true Jedi Knight would do right now? Nothing.
He would love to jump back in and help everybody, but he's realized that if he brings the Jedi back into this, then the Sith are going to rise up again, and the whole thing is going to start again, and it's just going to be more misery.
In other words, Luke has exiled himself for the good of the galaxy. See, guys? He's not being a coward or a demoralized, despairing old man. He's a hero for stepping aside and doing nothing.
The Jedi have to die so that the light can rise from a new source that will maybe work better.
Oh, so the white males should step aside to make way for females and minorities? Subtle. Okay, Ryan, your whole idea about why Luke is on this island is utter nonsense. About Luke doing nothing being a good thing, You completely missed the point about why Luke rushed off in Empire and why Yoda told him,
"You must not go.
It was literally because
You must complete the training."
it wasn't about inaction being the moral thing to do. The point was that Luke was not prepared to face Vader. He wasn't ready for the temptation that would come. As Obi-Wan put it,
You cannot control it. This is a dangerous time for you, when you will be tempted by the dark side of the Force.
Yes, yes. To Obi-Wan you listen. The cave. Remember your failure at the cave.
basically Luke not leaving is about this.
Patience.
By now, Luke should be a seasoned Jedi Knight. He should have the fortitude to face the dark side. His temptation is over. So leaving this island has no risk or downside in any way similar to The Empire Strikes Back.
Do you know what a true Jedi Knight would do right now? Nothing.
Ryan seems to have this twisted idea that the Jedi are, or at least should, be pacifists. But they're not. There's a difference between being a pacifist and being centered.
But how am I to know the good side from the bad?
You will know when you are calm, at peace, passive. A Jedi uses the Force for knowledge and defense, never for attack.
It's not about never using your strength and being completely passive. It's about being in control of that strength instead of letting it control you.
I feel the Force.
But you cannot control it.
Putting Luke at odds with Vader in such a vulnerable state is where the risk comes in. It wasn't because it was an un-Jedi thing to do. In fact, that's a very Jedi thing to do, to save those that need help. Being a Jedi was about, well,
The Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice.
which to me meant they would defend the defenseless and be the arbiters of disputes. But you better not mess with them, otherwise they'll wreck your shit.
Those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. One of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think, is that you should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You know, you don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it.
That's the essence of every master in every movie. They are disciplined, under control. The darkness is not repressed, but integrated and under control. And if you challenge them in their field, they will school you. But it's not to lord over you, but to teach you a lesson.
Here's a perfect example of what I've been talking about. Since this boy was suckling on his mama's tit, he's been given everything but discipline. And now his idea of courage and manhood is to get together with a bunch of punk friends and ride around irritating folks too good-natured to put a stopper to it.
Hey, who do you think you are, huh?
Hub McCann. I fought in 2 world wars and countless smaller ones on 3 continents. I led thousands of men into battle with everything from horses and swords to artillery and tanks. I've seen the headwaters of the Nile and tribes of natives no white man had ever seen before. I've won and lost a dozen fortunes, killed many men, and loved only one woman with a passion a flea like you could never begin to understand. That's who I am.
But instead, Luke's not a master. He's not even Luke.
He thought he's gonna be the Luke Skywalker of this trilogy. It's just the realization that in this trilogy he's not Luke Skywalker, he's Obi.
Except that's not true either. He's not even Yoda. So instead of getting the respect Luke deserves, instead of rediscovering Luke as the man he should be, instead of Luke teaching, or at least attempting to teach, the next generation the skills, discipline, and wisdom they sorely need, Rian Johnson has Luke turned into a depressing, grumpy, pathetic, pessimistic, infantilized, stupid old man who drinks green milk from the tits of a monster. And he needs to be taught a lesson from a young woman who has everything handed to her and never has any real trials, but she's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man. How satisfying. You know, it's amazing that Kylo Ren, the villain, Luke, and even Yoda are all in agreement with some postmodernist bullshit about letting the past die.
Let the past die.
It's time for the Jedi
to end.
Time it is.
And yeah, I know people are saying, oh, Yoda's teaching Luke a lesson about failure. That's the theme of the movie, because everybody fails.
The greatest teacher failure is.
Bullshit alert! This is what you tell young kids who fear failure so they don't become paralyzed by the possibility of doing something wrong. You may have heard the phrase, fail faster, or you learn most from your failures. But while these serve to cushion the blow of failure, sometimes you don't learn anything from failure, and sometimes you learn something from doing it right. So really, once you become more competent at learning, and less afraid of failing, failure is the greatest teacher becomes a meaningless platitude.
Courage, man, courage! Every bursted bubble has a glory.
Each abysmal failure makes a point.
Every glowing path that goes astray shows you how to find a better way.
So every time you stumble, never grumble.
Next time you bumble even less. For up from the ashes, grow the roses of success.
Luke, we are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden of all masters.
Yoda, who are you talking about? Are you talking about Ben Solo? Because all of Luke's other students are dead or unaccounted for. And I know you're not talking about Rey, because Luke never even taught her anything. I'm sorry, but you're spouting things that sound wise, but don't make any sense. But somehow all this nonsense convinces Luke to astral project himself to the planet where everyone else is. It didn't even have the gall to show up in person. Okay, Ryan, you put your character in a dark place mentally, but in order for this change of heart, as empty as the action is, to feel real, you need what Yoda tells Luke to actually be convincing. Not to mention it should pertain to why he's there on the island in the first place, and be a counter to what Luke's been saying, and not about meaningless fluff about failure. I keep thinking there could have been a better way to get a change of heart from Luke.
Father?
You have forgotten me.
No. How could I?
You have forgotten who you are, and so forgotten me. Look inside yourself. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life.
How can I go back? I'm not who I used to be.
Remember who you are. You are my son, and the last Jedi.
No! Please! Don't leave me!
Remember.
Father!
Remember.
Don't leave me.
But I guess whatever Yoda said convinced Luke to save the day, even if he doesn't really. He's just a short distraction for like 5 minutes. This ain't like Obi-Wan's death. He wasn't teaching his pupil a final lesson. He wasn't literally putting his life on the line. He's just there to stall for time to save a dozen people that we don't care about. How exciting.
He's doing this for a reason. He's stalling so we can escape.
Oh, did Luke know about the precious crystal foxes? Did he know they would lead everyone to those rocks? And that Rey would lift those rocks? What amazing timing. What an amazing coincidence. Then after Luke disappears, Luke actually disappears, by which I mean he dies. But he died for no apparent reason. What, you're gonna tell me he died of exhaustion? And of course his death has little meaning. But at least he was looking into a binary sunset. Remember this? And that's it. The deconstruction of Luke Skywalker is now complete.
In my mind, Luke's big thing in this movie is taking on that mantle of becoming a symbol of hope and inspire a whole new generation. He genuinely believes the light needs to find another hero. I wanted Luke's death to be on Luke's terms. I wanted it to be peaceful, to feel like a victory.
I honestly don't get this from the movie at all. How is Luke supposed to be a symbol of hope exactly? I don't get it. He didn't do anything. But at least these kids are telling his story. Wait a minute. How the hell do these kids know about Luke facing off Kylo for 5 minutes? The only remaining witnesses were the First Order and a dozen Resistance members, and they left before Luke disappeared. Plus, I don't think kids pay much attention to intergalactic politics, especially slave children. So who told them? Wait a minute, that kid has Jedi powers too? Do they all have Jedi powers? So were they all tuning into some kind of intergalactic broadcast through the Force or something? Is this really how you wanted Luke to die? An empty death? Alone on an alien world? He didn't sacrifice himself to allow his friends to escape with secret plans that could save the galaxy. He didn't die desperately trying to reach the better half of his son. He didn't even die protecting his own flesh and blood. He just disappears. Because he was tired, I guess.
You're not doing this. The effort would kill you.
Oh, I'm glad you put that line in there to justify it. This thing is so revolting. It makes me weep for Mark Hamill and what the Luke character has been turned into because of you, Ryan.
Well, see, again, I mean, and I told Ryan this, it's no surprise. I said, I just fundamentally disagree with your concept of this character and how you use him. Because, you know, it's not my character to decide.
But even after voicing his opinions, Mark Hamill still performed like a professional.
Mark, very understandably, wasn't thrilled about some of the choices in the script. The big things being the place that Luke's head is at, the fact that he's not the Luke Skywalker that we knew, and frankly, the fact that he dies at the end.
I'm just going to break in here and make sure that everybody out there realizes he is so significantly important to this next film. You have no idea.
Well, that's good to hear.
Then it was just a matter of really being honest with myself. Like, is that what's best for this trilogy? Is that what should happen here? And just questioning that over and over again.
You didn't question it enough. Look, Ryan, I get that you were trying to do the whole grumpy, war-weary old man that the young hero is trying to pull out of retirement, either for one last adventure or for whatever reason. It's a classic Western trope.
I'm so far over the hill, I'm on the bottom of the other side.
But this just doesn't work with Luke Skywalker. This kind of thing works with a character like Logan, because he's cynical and known nothing but pain and suffering all his life. Luke is optimistic. Sure, he went through some rough patches, but he redeemed his father and helped save the galaxy. Putting him in this position after such a high note makes no sense. It would actually make more sense with Han Solo because he was always more pessimistic by nature. Not to mention the life of rebuilding a lost republic isn't really his forte. He's the one that would probably get bored or go start chasing his past or maybe end up in the gutter somewhere. But not Luke.
It's an interesting thing because, you know, you have your own view of how your character should be and how he should be utilized. My character always represented hope and optimism, and now here I am, very pessimistic and disillusioned and sort of demoralized. No matter how this comes out, if I'm wonderful, it's because of him. And if it's terrible, it's also his fault.
Yep, it sure is. Number 14. The Force is Ryaned. Wait a sec. Sorry, my autocorrect keeps f***ing up. I think it hated the movie too. There we go. The Force is ruined. I shall now carefully explain how Ryan ruined both the Jedi and the Force. Even the Sith couldn't do something this evil.
Just like me, they're the last of the Jedi religion.
The Jedi are not a religion. Damn it, how many times do I have to say this? Are ninjas a religion? No. Are samurai a religion? No. Are cowboys a religion? No. Are kung fu masters a religion? No. So are the Jedi a religion? Then why the Wait a minute. What the f? Why does that keep happening? Fuck. Hold on, let me check something. Fucking fuckers, fucking goddamn autocorrect. The Force is spiritual in nature, yes. It's mysterious and mystical like a religion, yes. The Jedi are like mystical knights who wield this mysterious power, but they don't worship it, nor do they administer it to the masses or convert people. This is the definition of religion, and it does not apply to the Jedi or the Force. The Jedi, in simplest terms, are basically an exclusive club for people who train with the Force. That's it. Their mastery of this mysterious power may have an air of religiosity and piety to it, but it's not a space religion. I know George intended it to be a kind of amalgamation of all religions around the world.
It's sort of boiling down religion into a very basic concept.
But in the original trilogy, it was more spiritual, i.e. metaphysical, instead of an organized religion.
You know, ever since the very beginning, it always comes down to this mysterious thing that we can't see that has some kind of power over us, and or we have power over it, or we go to it for help. It explains a lot of the things the mysteries that we can't explain any other way.
And I know in the original trilogy, all the other characters who didn't understand it called it an ancient religion or a hokey religion, but it seemed like they were referring to it like some kind of superstitious nonsense from some kind of secret society they didn't understand. Not like some organized religion. I've said all this before, but basically the Force?
Ho, 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 it's magic, you know.
But with this spiritual undertone that makes it feel like there's something transcendent in the universe.
Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
Basically, it's a magical, mysterious power. It's supposed to be vague. That's the whole point.
The Force is not a superpower.
Wrong! The Force is not a power you have.
That is incorrect. The correct answer is...
The Force is what gives the Jedi his power.
It's not about lifting rocks. It's not about lifting rocks.
Uh-huh. Right.
It's the energy between all things, a tension, a balance that binds the universe together.
Oh boy, here's that balance shit again. It's amazing how the script never explicitly states it, but it's very much implied by the yin-yang looking symbol thing on the floor that the whole Great Jedi nonsense is going to happen. If this place is the origin of the Jedi, then it's pretty blatant they use the dark side as well. God, I hate it when I'm right. But that's not all. Looks like balance also means the universe doles out the Force to random people to make the Sith and the Jedi equal. So if there are too many Jedi, it makes more Sith and vice versa to compensate.
Darkness rises and light to meet it.
And part of the reason for making Rey's parents nobody was to shoehorn in this new idea that the Force is just granted to you randomly, disconnecting the Force from heritage and developing it like a skill.
There are kind of two elements to it. The less important one to me, but still the one that I think holds weight, is the notion of disconnecting it from strict lineage, the idea of opening up the world a little bit more so that, you know, it's not just that you have to be related to one of several people in the galaxy in order to be special. And also there's just something kind of appealing about the notion of, you know, it's kind of the anyone can be president sort of feeling.
There's a lot of the divine right of kings in Star Wars mythology in the stuff that had been accreted over 35 years. Mm-hmm. And there's a few really particular nods against that in your movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the most banal way of putting it is the American idea that anyone can become president. But the notion that, you know, it's ratatouille, it's, you know, anyone can be, you know.
Anyone can cook.
Ryan, did you even watch the Ratatouille movie? The whole point of it is at the very end. Anton Ego explicitly states it as clearly as daylight.
In the past, I have made no secret of my disdain for Chef Gusteau's famous motto, anyone can cook. But I realize only now do I truly understand what he meant. Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere.
In other words, not everyone can be exceptional, but exceptional people can come from all walks of life. Some will succeed, many will fail. It's just a real fact of life. Life's not fair, but that's the way it is. But Ryan has other ideas.
How Rey has the Force.
Everyone has the Force. Even Hux.
Is that true?
Everyone has that ability. It's just some people are more in it than others, right?
Okay, technically, yes, everyone has the Force, in the sense that everyone is connected to the Force, because...
It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us.
Yes, we know. However, I thought of sensitivity to the Force like a talent, like cooking. Anyone could enjoy good cooking, and most people can learn the basics of cooking, but not everyone has the gift to create amazing food. Those that have the gift and develop it through training will excel. It was sort of implied throughout the original trilogy, and hell, even in the prequels, that Force sensitivity was partly hereditary.
Who was his father?
The Force is strong in my family. My father has it. I have it. My sister has it.
But it wasn't impossible for anyone else to have the sensitivity to one degree or another. Continuing with the talent analogy, sure, talented people tend to have kids who are also talented. But sometimes unassuming parents have totally gifted kids. It's just a weird thing with DNA and shit. Being gifted in the Force enough that you could become a Jedi? Well, that made you special. But for some reason, Ryan didn't like this idea of hereditary Force sensitivity. So he has decreed that everyone has the Force. Even this little kid. Everyone is special.
Everyone's special, Dash. Which is another way of saying no one is.
And that's not all Ryan ruined. He even f***ed up Force ghosts. So, what Obi-Wan said to Vader...
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
I guess this is no longer metaphorical, but literal? But Obi-Wan also said...
If you choose to face Vader, you will do it alone. I cannot interfere.
'Cause he's a ghost. He can't interact with the physical realm anymore. Yet another...
contradiction.
Oh, and we have a bunch of new Force powers like astral projection and self-resurrection. Oh, and now the Force calls to people.
It's calling me.
And offers them things.
It offered something you needed.
It even pulls you in forcefully, like there's a consciousness behind it. Maybe she just slipped. It is pretty wet down there. A wet hole. You can even request to see things like it's your own personal magic mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the suest of them all? Ryan is so bad at understanding the Force, he even ruined his cave scene for Rey. I mean, sure, he was copying Luke's cave scene, but his copy makes no sense, because he doesn't understand why this cave scene was important in the first place. This is gonna be a deep dive, so hold on to your panties. See, in Empire, Luke's encounter in the cave is important to his character growth. Yoda told him to enter the cave strong with the dark side of the Force. Luke must enter as a test.
Now he has to go and explore a cave. Because Luke is going to have to face himself, his fears. He's still weak. He's got to be strengthened.
Luke asks what's in there, and Yoda responds, only what you take with you, which is the first part of the test. Does Luke trust in his connection with the Force yet? Has he mastered his fears? Or will he bring his weapons as a metaphorical crutch?
And when he tells him you don't need the guns, you don't need all that stuff,
the answer is no. His first failure.
He's still a weak man. He still needs guns and sabers. That shows that he's still weak.
Part of the going into the tree is learning about the Force, learning the fact that you create your own bad vibes. So if you think badly about things, or you act badly, or you bring fear into a situation, you're going to have to suffer the consequences of that. In this particular case, he takes his sword in with him, which means he's going to have combat. If he didn't, he wouldn't.
The cave is representative of the inner recesses of the mind, the unconscious and the innermost self. It's an introspective metaphysical journey played out physically. This is a fairly straightforward psychological motif.
And he goes underground. And this is the initiation scene, right?
This is the descent into the underworld. And it's a prerequisite to radical personality transformation.
Once in the cave, he encounters a Darth Vader. But how does he react? He draws his weapon in fear, anger, hatred, and revenge. His second failure.
Why don't you say something? You know who I am, don't you? I'm Ben Kenobi's friend. Skywalker's son. Come on! Stand your ground!
Out of hate, he cuts off the head of the apparition. His third failure.
Now his failure is complete.
The mask falls away to reveal his own face. This image has 3 distinct and separate meanings. 1. It is a subtle foreshadowing of Luke's parentage. 2. It is an omen of what he could become should he fall to the dark side. And 3. It reveals that his true enemy is not Vader, but himself, and that he is not emotionally prepared or mature enough to face his final trial with Vader.
My enemy's face is my own.
What was the point?
To make you think!
Oh, like I was fighting myself or something? Like what?
To make you think!
It is this scene which shows Luke's inner conflict, his temptation for revenge against Vader, and desire to continue the legacy of his father, and by extension the Jedi, which his father and Obi-Wan represented. The fear of falling to the dark side, the fear of being defeated by Vader, this is all personified by the image of Vader. He failed the test, showing he is not ready. This is why when Yoda says,
"The cave. Remember your failure at the cave."
The failures that I just described, that's what he's talking about. Dagobah is the cave in which Luke must lose that which is holding back his growth.
The idea that the passage of the magical threshold is a transit into a sphere of rebirth is symbolized in the worldwide womb image of the belly of the whale. The hero, instead of conquering or conciliating the power of the threshold, is swallowed into the unknown and would appear to have died. This popular motif gives emphasis to the lesson that the passage of the threshold is a form of self-annihilation. Instead of passing outward, beyond the confines of the visible world, the hero goes inward to be born again. The disappearance corresponds to the passing of a worshipper into a temple, where he is to be quickened by the recollection of who and what he is, namely, dust and ashes unless immortal. His secular character remains without. He sheds it, as a snake sheds its skin. For if the intruder is incapable of encompassing the sanctuary, then he has effectually remained without.
Luke does not shed his secular character, symbolized by his weapons, and thus fails the trial, but in doing so learns something valuable. But it is not internalized until defeated by Vader. Now in Rey's case, she enters the cave, but has no trial, no test, no inward understanding, and no transformation. The only thing that transforms is her hair. We are given strange images that do not comport with any real meaning. What is the significance of Rey falling into the pool of water? Was it merely a set dressing to break her fall? What is the significance of the mirrored cave wall? Mirrors often symbolize the threshold into the unconscious, showing deeper truths in a spiritual sense than what is merely seen. This is why we see reflections used as a motif to reveal something about the character they cannot see in themselves. Rey touches the mirrored cave wall and is instantly transported inside the mirror, which is full of a long row of reflections, all of which are slightly shifted in time, visual representations of a long line of echoes. Does this have any significant meaning? Whatever it is isn't clear, and sure as hell isn't as haunting or poignant as another famous shot in cinematic history. We hear the voiceover line of Rey describing how she feels instead of allowing us to feel it with her through the music, Daisy's acting, or the cinematography, which makes it all the more confusing. What the hell is going on? Holy shit, I'm tripping balls!
There's no earthly way of knowing which direction we are going.
Two shadowy figures approach the other side of the wall, coalesce into one, and then the fog lifts to reveal her reflection. I wonder where I've seen that before. Except this time, I can't tell you what the f*** this means. She's her own grandma? Or maybe Ryan watched too much Harry Potter before writing the film.
I see that you, like so many before you, have discovered the delights of the mirror of Erised. I trust by now you realize what it does.
It shows us what we want. Whatever we want.
Yes and no. It shows us nothing more or less than the deepest and most desperate desires of our hearts. The happiest man on earth would look into the mirror and see only himself, exactly as he is. But remember this, Harry. This mirror gives us neither knowledge or truth. Men have wasted away in front of it, even gone mad. It does not do to dwell on dreams, Harry, and forget to live.
There's nothing significant about this. My initial reaction was one of confusion, but upon further reflection, get it? Cause it's a mirror. The only thing I could glean from this is she's a pale reflection of herself. A farce. A fake. An imposter. Oh, is that supposed to show how she's actually nobody? And is the massive line of copies supposed to represent how much of a fake copy she is? Here's Ryan's explanation.
You know, it's all about finding herself, and there's all these versions of her going down the line, this infinite number, and which one am I? And
so many versions that are completely identical. That's not confusing at all.
Similar, I mean, obviously similar. We're drawing a very obvious connection to Luke's training into Dagobah here, obviously. She descends down into there and has to see, just like Luke did in the cave, her greatest fear. And her greatest fear is in the search for identity, that she has nobody but herself to rely on.
Ryan, it wasn't just about Luke facing his fears. It was about testing him, a trial to help him learn. He got a lesson about temptation of the dark side, hate, revenge, and fear too. You have the lesson about how he doesn't trust in himself and his connection with the Force, and thus making him his own enemy, hindering his own progress. And it's a foreshadowing of Luke's parentage, and a poetic way of hinting that he and Vader share the same blood. This is a powerful, complex message, which is why this whole scene is so brilliant. What does Rey learn? Nothing. The cave tempts her down there, but what does she get? Nothing. What does she face? Nothing. What aspects of her psyche do we glean from this? Nothing. She's empty like the cave she's in. There's nothing to confront, nothing to learn. She's supposed to go down there to find herself, and all she finds is emptiness. Ryan spins this as,
nope, you gotta stand on your own 2 feet. There are not going to be those easy answers here for you. You're wondering who you are? Okay, well, you have to find out who you are for yourself.
But since we don't really get or feel Rey's supposed desire for identity because it was never set up in either movie, we're just left with an empty cave and an actress being emotional over nothing we care about, and she never learns the lesson Ryan is teaching in the end. Besides, it's not a terribly good lesson anyway. None of us are truly cut off from those around us. We derive our identity from those who came before, either our parents, mentors, or historical figures. We stand on the shoulders of giants. To reject this wisdom outright like you have, let the past die. Nope, she's got to stand on her own 2 feet. That is foolish. It's ridiculous. It's, dare I say, the dark side. Number 15. How do you want us to feel, Ryan? So Ryan thought really long and hard about his twist for who Rey's parents are. Remember, J.J. Abrams, the master of the mystery box, set this whole thing up. They played it up like it was super important. Like Rey didn't know who her parents were, but we assumed that once we eventually found out, it would be the center of the drama surrounding the story. Kind of like how the original trilogy masterfully did this. That whole story is about Luke and his relationship to his father. The backdrop for the drama is the Empire versus Rebel War.
I mean, we call it space opera, but people don't realize it's actually a soap opera. And it's all about family problems and it's not about spaceships.
With The Force Awakens, it was pretty blatant that the drama would be surrounding the mystery of Rey's heritage. But it was hard to get invested because, one, it wasn't believable that she would be in denial for that long, and two, halfway through the film, they basically resolved the whole parents thing anyway. So by the end of The Force Awakens, we were kinda curious about who her parents would eventually be, but weren't really all that concerned about the drama surrounding it per se. Yeah, people endlessly speculated to the point of retardation who her parents might be, but everyone was more concerned about filling in that gaping plot hole about her inexplicable proficiency with the Force to at least partially explain why she's already a f***ing level 60 Jedi Master. Making her the daughter of Luke, the granddaughter of Obi-Wan, or whatever, would sort of patch that hole. And since Rey never seemed obsessed with going on a quest to actually find her parents, we weren't all that emotionally invested anyway. Rey didn't seem too concerned with who they were, only that she was afraid she might never find them. I think. I'm not sure, it's not entirely clear. Then along came Ryan. Suddenly everything's about her parents for no apparent reason. Kylo knows who her parents are. She asks the f***ing magic mirror who they are. But despite all that, we still don't have any perception of what Rey thinks or wants the answer to be. And at long last, we got the full reveal. It's time to open the mystery box and discover the shocking truth.
Let's see what's in the box!
They were nobody.
Nothing! Absolutely nothing! Stupid! You're so stupid!
Not getting what she wants, not getting the answers from the places she thought they were going to come from, meaning Luke, meaning her parents. You're wondering who you are? Well, you have to find out who you are for yourself.
This was so exciting. I was on the edge of my seat. Because I wanted to leave. Yeah, I stole that joke. What are you gonna do? And boy, was there backlash for this anticlimactic subversion. But the reason people are mad isn't because they didn't get any of their theories confirmed, as some idiots on the internet would have you believe. No, the reason people didn't like it is because it's lame, boring, and completely undramatic. It had zero emotional impact. It wasn't shocking, it was just deflating. Rian Johnson seems like a fairly competent writer on occasion. He wanted to put Rey in a tough spot emotionally. That's good thinking. But
About Rey, I actually go through and I made a list. Well, here's all the possible things that it could be. I mean, I listed everything I could think about, even awful possibilities. And really, with the question of what should the answer Rey's given in this movie be, boils down to what is the hardest thing she can hear. It's weirdly similar to the "I am your father" moment with Vader. It's oddly going for the same impact that moment had, but with the inverse answer. "I am your father" was the hardest thing that Luke could hear in that moment in the audience, because it takes what was a very simple bad guy and suddenly turns him into something much more complicated. And to do that with Rey, to give Rey and the audience that moment of, oh no, it had to be the exact opposite answer.
Really, Ryan? You think being nobody is the hardest thing she could hear? I can think of something far more disturbing for her origin. Wouldn't that f*** you up inside to find that out? But let's stick with this "you're not related to what you expected" twist. If you're going for shock value to both the character and the audience, you gotta set it up better. And yes, that's mostly JJ's fault. Had they planned things from the beginning and worked on all 3 scripts at the same time for a few years instead of rushing out a first draft in a couple months and just going with it, maybe Lucasfilm could actually have made the nobody thing more impactful. Guess whose fault that is? To make this
They were nobody.
pack more emotional punch, you have to build up the character's perception of themselves. Make her convinced that her parents are special, amazing people. Have her express that to other characters so we, the audience, get it.
You're just like your father. Lazy, arrogant.
Don't say a word against my father. My father was a great man.
Your father was a swine.
We need to know the view the character holds in order to create context.
嘘つきの子は嘘つきだな。何？お前の親父も夢みたいなことばかり言ってた。挙句の果てにどこかで岩の下敷きになっておだぶつだ。違う！親父は地上に出た。俺は一緒に行ったんだ。
Make it clear how the character feels and thinks of their parents. You could even introduce someone for them to scoff at, as a counterpoint to create the contrast to how they see their parents and thus themselves.
はっ、食ったらね。こんななんもねえとこでくたばるやつに赤なんぞもったいねえよ。
私たちだっていつこうなっても。
ならねえ。
But after building this up...
待ってろ、親父。
That's when you drop the water. That's how you make your audience feel things. This...
They were nobody.
Has about as much emotional impact as a wet paper bag. In order for this moment to have weight, you need an up in order for there to be a down. It's called contrast. There are other examples of twists that challenge a character like this, some of which we already know the twist, and others that come as a surprise are built up to it by showing us how they feel about something and how they come to conclusions about what they know. When we hit the twists and turns, we feel what they feel because we know what they know and how they feel. That's what we expect because that's how movies work. But I guess Ryan was too busy subverting our expectations, he forgot basic movie logic.
Oh, logic!
The Last Jedi is emotionally dead. There was really only one spot I felt anything substantial from the movie, and that was the scene with Luke and R2. But for the rest of the movie, the only emotions I felt were astonishment, disgust, anger, and frustration. But it wasn't with the movie, it was at the movie. How did all this go so wrong? Why didn't Ryan have a script doctor look over the first draft before they just went with it? Why didn't they consult the best brain trust that Disney has under its banner? Hell, these guys are pros at manipulating your emotions. I'm not gonna cry. 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 Hell, they didn't even listen to George.
They weren't that keen to have me involved anyway.
But who wants to listen to that crazy old codger, am I right? By the way, what does George think of the movie? He thought it was beautifully made. Oh, that's nice. Wait, why does that sound familiar?
There's a lot of movies that are badly made that I love. There's a lot of movies that are just beautifully made, but I don't like them.
Huh, make of that what you will, I guess. Anyway, so why can't these people make a proper Star Wars movie? I think the answer is people like Rian Johnson just don't get Star Wars.
You know, George Lucas created something, and even now, people are constantly still trying to figure out what was it that he tapped into that resonates still today.
I'll tell you, he tapped into the indelible human spirit, the appetite for adventure, the personal drama, the epic scale of a mythological journey.
Your relationship to your father, your relationship to the generation that came before you that seems to have screwed everything up. And how do you feel about passing that on to your kids? And how do your kids feel about the fact that you've been handed this mess from the earlier generation? You know, can you be stronger than your father in terms of the temptations that he was maybe able to overcome or not overcome? So there's a lot of complicated things that are put in there. You know, there are basic issues that you want to deal with.
But people like Rian Johnson probably don't hold to such ideals, because they're postmodernists in some form or another. Hollywood is steeped in postmodernist ideology. However, because of the free market, they've largely been forced to create things people want. That is, movies that affirm deep-rooted human values. As the old saying goes, get woke, go broke. How do you think Disney became such a juggernaut in the entertainment industry?
When planning a new picture, we don't think of grown-ups and we don't think of children, but just of that fine, clean, unspoiled spot down deep in every one of us that maybe the world has made us forget and that maybe our pictures can help recall.
People want to see in movies the things that are meaningful to them. Stories about growing up, going on adventures, falling in love. Stories about family, parents and their children, brothers and sisters, and navigating the troubled waters of reality. It's no wonder that classic films, the ones that are so near and dear to people, hold meaning and value because they mirror the very meaning in their own lives.
almost all the meaning that you will need to get you through the hard times of your life is going to be a consequence of adopting responsibility, not of rights and impulsive freedom. That isn't where you're going to find the meaning that keeps you sustained through the storms of life. That's going to be, you take care of yourself, you take care of your intimate partner, you take care of your damn family. You don't run off. You take care of your community. You rescue the wisdom from the past. You stand up straight and you be courageous despite the fact that life is tragic and tainted by malevolence. That's ancient wisdom. That's what that is.
I think Walt Disney understood that. That's why it's so ironic that the Disney Empire is now presiding over the complete destruction of the Star Wars franchise.
It's time to let old things die.
Helped along by this asshole.
You're literally having the time of my life.
Yeah, might have some kind of twisted meaning in his mind, and when he talks about the original films, it sounds like he knows.
Suddenly, that thing that I thought was the bad guy is actually a part of me.
But then he makes this film. Oh. Did we really need BB-8 blowing on his gun like Clint Eastwood? He doesn't have a fucking mouth. He doesn't even breathe. How the fuck did we really need the pointless fight with these assholes? Uh-oh, Daisy missed her cue, so whoops, gotta swing wide. Oh, this guy's weapon just disappears. What the fuck? More Mary Sue magic. Really, it should be about moments like this.
I cannot teach him. The boy has no patience.
You will learn patience.
And not this.
Master Skywalker, we need you to bring the Jedi back because Kylo Ren is strong with the dark side of the Force.
More like this.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
And not this.
You have no place in this story. You come from nothing. You're nothing.
When your tone is all over the place and there's no meaning to anything on screen, it comes across like you don't understand Star Wars or the fans who like it.
They were nobody.
I feel nothing.
Number 16, The Last Straw. See what I did there? It's the title of the video. And so what was The Last Straw? The movie was a terribly constructed, horribly written mess, but the straw that broke the Bantha's back was the aftermath that followed. Boy howdy, the fans were upset. And I have to admit, I found the backlash to the film more entertaining than the film itself. But instead of owning up to their mistakes and taking responsibility, the creators at Lucasfilm, Rian Johnson, and the media circled the wagons and dug in their heels. Articles and media coverage praising the movie for all the wrong reasons, and blaming anything for the negative criticism and vitriolic fan hatred of this movie. They blamed it on trolls, Russian bots, toxic masculinity. They even called the fans names like man babies, sexists, misogynists, alt-right, stupid, and crybabies. They refused to listen. They made fun of us. They posted stupid, nonsensical straw man argument videos and articles about how The Last Jedi is the best thing to happen to Star Wars, and how we all need to sit down, shut up, and just take it. So what should be done? Well, the first thing Disney CEO Bob Iger should have done is fire Kathleen Kennedy. Next, every person hired since Kathleen Kennedy was given the reins should be suspended. There should be a hiring process done where all these people should have to reapply for their job and compete against an open market of people. And this time, not be hired just because they're not a white male. Now, this might seem crazy, but the next thing they should do is wipe the slate clean. Decanonize the new movies just like they decanonized the extended universe material, and start again. This time, don't include Han Solo, or God forbid, a CGI replica of Leia. Focus on a new character and Luke, and a new conflict that doesn't involve giant super weapons or empires and rebels. But we all know, even if that's what should happen, it's not what's going to happen. They're just going to make episode 9 like everything is fine. Let's be real, there's a snowball's chance in hell that JJ's episode 9 will somehow turn the previous shit to gold. Realistically, can anything be done? Obviously, I'm not giving any more money to these hack frauds. Would a boycott even send these people a wake-up call? They're so tone-deaf they thought the reason Solo flopped was because no one wants to see white males in movies anymore. Even when Lucasfilm isn't making any profits from movies or toys, while sucking on Disney's dollar, they'll just chalk it up to sexists again. They'll go broke for being woke, and be another drag on the Disney brand. F them, what do I care? I know we're all negative on this movie, but there is a lot of amazing artistry that went into the visuals and audio for the movie. And I don't want to lump all those hardworking people in with these morons. I love that they took the effort to make real sets and practical effects, and I appreciate how much work goes into making everything look great and sound great. But when the story is nothing but rot, we have nothing to keep us here, and it makes me so sad to see all that talent being wasted. It's such a massive missed opportunity, especially since there are some actors that are no longer with us. Is Star Wars really done? Should fans take matters into their own hands? Or maybe we should just move on. Keep what's good, and leave the rest behind. But after the complete and total destruction of Star Wars, the endless excuse-making, the name-calling, and denial of reality, it really makes me wonder, maybe it's time to let this past die, like it never happened. Maybe it's time for Star Wars to end. Are you fuck satisfied? I hope I ruined someone's expectations. Fuck off, Ryan. Nobody likes your hipster ass. Get this fucking crap out of my face. I'm gonna go eat some pizza rolls and pass out. Now leave me alone till next year.